I'm not one who was out on the front lines marching. I was not one of the student marchers. Other things, my father forbade me from doing that and told me he'd kill me if I did. They wouldn't have to. But at some point, I am a direct beneficiary, but I'm also, I think, a keeper of the flame. Because the work I've done is to keep the flame alive and glowing. In 2014, what we know is that this is still a country that is challenged by the issue of race, by the issue of diversity, by the issue of equity for women, and by the whole issue of what equality means. All men, or all people, or everybody but, or those people, not us. And that's still, we're still conflicted on this, and race being the biggest issue. Ferguson, Missouri, is one of those linchpin issues that continues to come up from time to time that shows us that we're not there.
And that's the white cop shooting the unarmed black teenager.
Exactly. So that's one of the things that we have to realize. And Ferguson actually tore open the wound on the whole treatment of African Americans in this country. And when we look at the criminal justice system
In 2014.
in 2014, who's in jail? Who's being kicked out of school in large numbers, and why? Who's not getting the education? Who's not getting access to the better jobs? And then when we extrapolate that to what does the immigrant community look like, and what's the backlash there as a result of them coming to these shores? And we said, come on, you know, bring us your tired, your poor. But it's sort of like, but not you immigrants. You are a little bit darker than the others. So that's the other piece of it. Or for women, when we look at this whole 2014 domestic violence piece with the NFL and what's going on there and who the face is of domestic violence, it's an African American football player. Now, whether we like it or not. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at. And then we look at the notion of our women's salaries at the level they need to be in. Or if I tell you, I come to work today and I'm a young woman, I suddenly say, oh, there's good news. I'm expanding my family. And suddenly they're let go. Does that happen in 2014? Yes. Or the company doesn't cover my contraceptive benefits. So the issues are still there. We're much better off than we were in 1948 when I came along, with the desegregation of troops was just happening. I told you my father was a World War II veteran, but he didn't get any of the benefits. He couldn't get a house, he couldn't get the kinds of loans and stuff. That's still happening today. So those are the kind of things. So I believe I'm a keeper of the flame.
Even with a black president.
Even with a black president, that there's a keeper of the flame, that my charge was to make sure that the laws on the books were there and they were being implemented in a fair and equitable manner, and they were efficient. That meant that we couldn't hold cases for 2, 3, and 4 years, that we need to do something that gets to an answer based on what we have today. We can't just keep holding it, but that we also work to make sure that we expose policies and other issues that need to be changed. And where possible, we get laws changed. One of the things that I did with one of the state reps here was I talked to him and Porter Hatcher. Porter passed the hate crimes law, and I worked with Porter to do that. And that was quite a significant undertaking for me. I didn't understand what to do with legislators, but in talking with Porter and in going before the legislative bodies, we were able to get the hate crime law passed. And it had sexual orientation in it, didn't get taken out. So there's some things that happen. We work with communities with respect to sexual orientation, even though it's not in the state law, in other communities to make those things happen. That really is the challenge and the charge. Where there is a barrier, where there is something that prevents people from having equal access, what do we do and how do we do it? So I've been the fixer, putting together the policies, making sure we understand the laws, making sure that we were doing the kinds of things, and that to me is the keeping of the flame. The flame must always be lit for it to get brighter and bigger and make the circle larger. And that really is what Dr. King talked about, was bringing everybody into the circle and making sure that things happen.